On February 19th, there was a man who was charged with second-degree murder because someone broke into his house and he defended himself. Now, this is kind of an interesting story, especially with, the gun law laws that are trying to be passed in Parliament and a whole bunch of other things. So, um, we're going to get into this in a second, but I have something that I'm curious about, and it's sort of like a little bit of a thought experiment. That kind of ties a little bit into this in terms of self-defense. And I'm kind of curious what you guys think, so leave me a comment and let me know what you think. So, as you can tell, I am white. Not hard to tell. And but I'm a white straight male, and if we know anything about what a white straight male is, that automatically makes me a misogynist. That automatically makes me a racist, and it automatically makes me a transphobe. And that's just because of essentially what the media has been telling people for the last, I don't know. Well, you tell me how long. Anyways, so, out of curiosity, if I was, let's say, walking down a street in downtown somewhere and someone was to come and rob me, and I saw an opportunity to defend myself and my property and, let's say, my wife who's with me, should I take that opportunity to defend myself? For example, apprehend the person by using a little bit of violence. Now, I'm against violence, but if I had to, I would. Should I do it, right? Am I allowed to? Well, in certain circumstances, yes. But then again, I'd be seen as the aggressor because I took the first move, although I was already being threatened. But then the question is, if that person who was trying to attack us and mug us was a woman, should I? Am I allowed to? Am I allowed to defend myself against a woman? So use force against a woman who is trying to attack me, possibly with a weapon. Am I allowed to do that? And then the next question is okay, well, if it was a man, people would be like, yeah, go ahead, right? You can defend yourself against another man. Doesn't matter, who they are, unless they're maybe a minority. So then that also raises another question. But then the question is, what if this person is a transgendered person and they're going from, let's say, man to woman or woman to man? The question is, am I allowed to defend myself and use force against them to be able to, protect myself, my wife, and my property? So that's the question I got for you, because I've asked that question before, and a lot of people don't even know how to answer that, unfortunately. So, personally, I believe it doesn't matter who the person is. If they're trying to put violence against me and I see an opportunity to defend myself, doesn't matter who I am, doesn't matter who they are, I should be able to have that opportunity. But if I'm being told that, oh no, because they're a woman, you're not allowed to, you just have to hand over your wallet and all of your other stuff, then that's an issue. And that brings me back to the story of what's going on here. Now, this doesn't have to necessarily do with any races or anything like that, but it does have to do with defending your property and defending yourself along with a loved one. So in Ontario, on February 19th, there was a gentleman who was awoken at around 5 a.m. to intruders in his house. And now he was a 22-year-old man. His name was Ali Mian. I'm going to pull up the article here. And he was charged with murder after he defended his property. Now, there's quite a few different stories, so I'll put some links down in the description here so you can take a look at them yourself. So essentially, a 22-year-old man was charged with second-degree murder after allegedly shooting an intruder inside of his Milton home over the weekend and made a brief court appearance on Tuesday. And apparently today, which is Thursday, he'll be making another appearance, and that's in a couple of these articles. Now they say the interesting thing here is they say allegedly, you know. Well, no, it's not allegedly because the lawyer admitted that he did fire a shot. And between all of these articles, it's getting really confusing. So originally, the articles did say that it was a targeted attack, and then that was withdrawn from the Milton police. That it wasn't targeted, and described the shooting as targeted, but later issued an update news saying that it was removed. And then there was also another article there where it talked about the mother being a teacher Um, which is another interesting thing because the one man who was arrested, who was still in the house, he was 20 years old, and apparently there was three other people in a vehicle outside that took off after the shooting happened. So, and it was 20-year-old Romario Clark, and that's the second suspect. So essentially, what happened is two men break into a house. They allegedly start attacking the mother, the woman in the house, and the son notices this and he grabs a firearm that is registered to him. He is a lawful owner, and he uses that firearm against one of the intruders and shoots him, not trying to kill him, just trying to stop him from whatever's happening in the house. And then there was three more shots that went off allegedly, because apparently there was one shot and then three more, and then that was the end of it. Now, before he pulled the gun, before Ali Mian pulled the gun, allegedly he had called the cops, he had talked to them, he had told them what was going on, so the cops were on the way. He pulled the gun, he went into the room, and I'm going to imagine they were going against his mother and doing whatever they were doing to her, right? Trying to suppress her so that they can steal the stuff or whatever. Because this is all being called a um, a break and enter, a robbery. Not that it was a targeted against the mother, but she is a teacher, and these kids are pretty young, so maybe there's something there. But then the targeted aspect was then removed. We're not sure why they said there was targeted in the first place. And essentially, then there was one shot, and then there was three shots. Cops show up. One person's dead. Then the other one is apprehended, arrested, and charged with unlawful possession of a firearm and B&E. And then the guy Ali Mian, who shot and killed one of the intruders, was charged with second degree murder. Now his lawyer is trying to play that it is a self-defense move, but the police are saying that unfortunately, it looks like it was unreasonable, because if you're going to use self defense laws, it has to be reasonable to what's going on. Now, when I looked into the self defense laws, it's really interesting because essentially, when it comes to self defense and what's considered reasonable or beyond reasonable, it really goes to the emotions of the first responders, and it also goes to the emotions of the judges and the courts and all of that. So they're the ones that decide what is reasonable or not. So what you may see as reasonable may not be reasonable for someone else, right? So for example, I'm being mugged downtown somewhere, let's say Vancouver, right? And it's a guy who has a knife, and I see an opportunity to apprehend him, get him to the ground, and until the cops arrive, that might be seen as reasonable. Now, I always carry a knife with me because, well, it's a tool, and it's a tool that I actually use as a tool. But if I was to pull that out as a defense mechanism, and I was to use that against the person, and let's say they lunged at me to stab me or something like that, and then I pulled out mine, and in defense, I stabbed them through the arm or something like that, severing tendons and stuff. And I know a lot about nerves and tendons because of this hand. The question is that reasonable, right? Because then I actually inflicted damage on someone. Now, if that person who was attacking me was, let's say, transgender or was a woman, would that be reasonable, right? Because then now we're looking at, so that's the question. So that's why I kind of threw that in the beginning. So let me know what you think down in the comments, because this situation is going to be interesting. I'm going to keep following it, I believe. I don't know if I can make another video, but you can go take a look at all the links down in the comments or in the description, and let me know what you think down in the comments about this, because it's kind of interesting. And personally, the way I'm kind of reading this, it looks like there was an unregistered, unlawful gun that was being used, an illegal gun by an illegal being used illegally, against two people, and one person legally grabbed his legal gun and used it against the person who was, using theirs illegally. and was then charged for murder when he didn't intend to murder the person. And his life is going to be thrown away because of him trying to protect his own property and his own mother. So you let me know what you think down in the comments, and have a great day.